What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Thursday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Lloyd Vance, our NFL Insider, also college expert, and of course, on the selection committee of the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Kind enough to join us, as always. He was down there in Atlanta. Look at this. We've got one of their inductees, the great Johnny Walton, kind enough to join us for a couple moments. Johnny, first and foremost, congratulations, and not bad, right? Coming a long way from Elizabeth City many moons ago. So walk us through who made the call to you for your induction into the Black College Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, somewhere in December, I think it was somewhere around the 22nd, James made the call to me and said, congratulations, Johnny. You played your way into the Hall of Fame. He didn't say that we recognize you, but he said you played your way in and you deserve it. And it made me feel real good.
And that James is James Shaq Harris. He's talking about.
Yes, James Harris. Yes.
James Harris, not bad. Grambling quarterback. That's Lloyd and I, we talk about this a lot because Lloyd is, when it comes to historically black colleges, black college football, he's like an expert. I take what he says with a lot of respect because he's extremely knowledgeable. We've always talked about and I'll let Lloyd get into this too, just, I guess, the emergence over the last 20, 30, 40 years of the African-American quarterback. And, you were one of those first guys, if you will, kind of one of those trailblazers. You mentioned James Harris. I still think of Jersey Joe Gilliam, right? We can go back. I mean,
yep.
Was it challenging for you not to play the position, but to be accepted as you're playing that position?
It was a great challenge. You didn't have any examples to go by. So, it was only two out there at the time. James Harris was in Buffalo, and I went to the Los Angeles Rams camp. And it was just you never saw many quarterbacks on the field. And Shaq and I talked, and he remember we have an exhibition game, and both of us warming up on our side of the field, and he looked and said, "Wow, that brother can throw the ball," and I was complimenting him the same way, on my end of the field. So when we went to different fields, it was just not an ordinary thing to see a black quarterback, and just seeing Shaq out there and knowing the things that I was going through. I was sure he was going through some of the same things.
Yeah, James. And when I did the book Third and a Mile, it was oracle, narrative history. And just to hear some of the stories these trailblazers went through was just amazing. And your perseverance is incredible. And we're at the point now where there may be 16 starting African-American quarterbacks next season. We'll see how that shakes out. But that would be a pretty much a watershed moment. So talk to me about the number of leagues you played in and that journey. You had to kind of play the minor leagues, the NFL, and some of the other leagues, and just talk about that journey.
Okay, when I went into the Rams camp in 1969, and the head coach was Coach George Allen. And if anybody know about Coach Allen, they know that he loved experience. He kind of built his team around guys that have been in the league over a period of time. And I guess his rationale was that if you had experience and you've been there before, you should at least win more games than you lose. And, he had a good concept. And during that time, Roman Gabriel was the head quarterback. And, hey, there wasn't no easy feat to try to beat him out. So I just dislodged that from my mind. So I say, hey, my best chance is to try to beat out Carl Sweetan, who's the backup quarterback. And, we had some pretty good challenging days, and both of us threw the ball real good. And all of a sudden, I had a conversation with Coach Vermeil telling me that Coach Allen wanted to see me. And when I went there, he put the conversation to me that saying that I could be released and probably contact somebody from Canada to get some playing time in. I could either go to Indianapolis, where they had something like a farm team there, and I decided to go to Indianapolis, and I'm glad that I did, because at that CFL was the Continental Football League.
Mm-hmm.
With that team, we won the championship. There was an injury to the starting quarterback that was there prior to my getting there, and after the third game, I was inserted on the fourth game because of injuries, and we won like 8 in a row, getting into the playoffs. And then we beat Orlando, a team out of Orlando who had won the championship the prior year. And, and that springboarded everything, and winning a championship was very instrumental in the Rams re-signing me the next year. So I felt like that was a very instrumental point in my life. After then, I went back to the Rams, and in that time, Coach Allen left and went to the Washington Redskins.
Yep.
Even though I had experienced more, and I had more data so he could look at, and it seemed like you got to go through the bitter with the sweet. And at that time, Coach Tommy Protho, who was a collegiate football coach the prior year, became the head coach of the Rams. And his philosophy was different than Coach Allen's. His philosophy was run the football. And run the football was not one of my fortes. I knew how to hand that ball off and let it run it back to his thing. So I was injured that first year with Coach Protho, but the second year I was released after preseason, and I was out of ball for a while. Then back in 1974, the the World Football League came about.
Right.
I tried out for the Chicago Fire. I was around there until the last cut, and then I was out of ball that off season. And in the following year, Coach Perry Moss, who was an awesome offensive talent, he loved to throw the football. So that was like getting married to a person. He and I was right on the same. We were right on the same plane, man, because he loved to throw it, and I loved to throw it too. So it gave me an opportunity to gather more data and stats. I led the league. The week we were about to go to Hawaii, the team folded. The whole league folded.
Wow.
So why not one more week, fellas?
Yeah, at least get a trip in Hawaii.
Yeah, come on. So I finished. They folded, and during the off season, I got a call from Coach Vermeer, who I met in Los Angeles. He was the special teams coach for Coach Prothero, and they knew each other through you get into a fraternity. Dick coached at UCLA, and Coach Prothero coached at UCLA, so they had something like a fraternity that looked out for one another. So in that sense, Dick gave me a call and say, Johnny, I'm gonna sign you, if you fly up Philadelphia, talk it over and see where we go from there. And I still had the energy and mindset to want to play in the NFL. So I signed, and it's history after that. Played for 4 years with the Eagles. And
Q, jump in here. It's funny because as soon as I started talking about John Walton, our buddy Donald Hunt over at the Philadelphia Tribune and some other guys, they were just getting excited. I heard from a lot of people in the area. They remember Johnny, and do you remember some of those games back in the day?
Well, the biggest game that I played in, we played I can tell you exactly the date, the time, and I can see it flashing through my
I
mind.
hold on. I got it in front of me, Johnny. I'm going to let you say it, but I bookmarked it with my notes. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, it's November the 11th, 1979, with 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock, frame 15. What happened is Ron George dropped back, and it hit Too Tall Jones, hit him, and they had to take him out of the game.
And Q, he thanked Too Tall at the dinner the other night. He said he thanked
you know what? And he should. Why not? That opens up the door. And by the way, do you remember you threw a touchdown pass in that game? I think that was Monday Night Football.
Exactly. There was Monday Night Football. Howard Cosell was the announcer. I know you all remember Howard. He could do it, my friend. But with that minute and 30 seconds, we scored 10 points.
Wow.
I threw a touchdown to Charlie Smith in the left corner of the end zone. And then we got the ball again. And Tony Franklin kicked the 50-some yard field goal. So we went up at halftime 17-7. When I went in the locker room, Ron was in there doing jumping jacks, right? Getting ready for the second half. So that was how that season ended. And
but you know that play like the back of your hand. I mean, that instant you got in there. Monday Night Football, national audience, Eagles, Dallas, Cosell, Dandy Down, the whole group. I mean, I can't imagine what that was like to be in that huddle, look around, and then, hey man, fire that touchdown toss to Charlie Smith.
Yeah, the memory is so. That was the biggest pass of my life, and I will always cherish that one. And I had to stink tooth on because, I needed to get on the field to show what I could do.
You sent him a Christmas card every year.
Yeah, it proved that I could make things happen if I got in the game. Well, we went on and we met Tampa Bay in Florida.
Yeah. Very good team that year, Tampa.
And they beat us. So I look at it as I hope I could have gotten in and helped the team a little more, but it didn't happen. So it became kind of depressing to me. But I kept putting my best foot forward, and I said, where do I go from here? Fortunately, my alma mater was looking for a head football coach at that time, and I kind of narrowed my decision down to either go back where I knew the Eagles were going to go to the Super Bowl very soon because we got better and better each year. Mm-hmm. And the talent pool was great, and we had some good players. So I decided to go and coach, and that was one of the, that was NFL for two times. Then after I coached college ball for 3 years. In '83, I went and played in the USFL. That's where that fraternity joined hands again. So Dick Corey, who was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, he got the head job for the Portland Breakers.
Yeah, so Boston and Portland, New Orleans.
yeah, that was
Generals.
And that year we were leading the league, and we had a great season. We beat the Philadelphia Stars one time, and they beat us one time. So it was a great season.
And those were shootout games. I remember those games.
Yes. Yeah,
you don't have to worry about running the ball.
Not at all. I still don't. I was not a running gun guy. I was a perfect in the pocket type of guy, and I loved it. And when you got guys that can protect you, if you give me 3 seconds, I'm gonna get that ball off. That's how I felt. And you get your pre-snap look. You know where you can go with the ball before the ball is snapped, and then you kind of confirm it off of your second step. That's how fast it is. Mm-hmm. And then through practice, you know where you're going with the football. And I was very successful doing that. So, that's pretty much how the 4 and 5 different leagues went. And it was a great experience. And I loved all of it. Yes.
Same type of The one thing, and again, Johnny Walton kind enough to join us this edition of Back Your Play. Rich Quinones here, Lloyd Vance joining us. You mentioned when Jaws was doing the jumping jacks, and then you're like, all right, I'm done for the night. And we say it now, right? But being an athlete and having that competitive fire in you, even during practices, especially quarterback, because you have to have a little chip on the shoulder, you have to have a little edge to you and a little confidence, right?
Right.
I'm wondering, to a man, when you competed on these different levels and you had to wait for your shot, did you ever kind of sit back and say, you know what? I'm just as good, as not better than this guy?
It did. At times it did happen like that. But when I first went to Philly, I think there was Mike. I'm not gonna call his name, but Mike was the quarterback, and he had talent, but after he left the Eagles, his name never really shined again. I think he went to Tampa. At that time, I thought I knew I could get in the game and play, but the coach's rationale was that he didn't know how the community would accept a black quarterback. And I know Philadelphia was ready for one, because I know when we played a playoff against the Chicago Bears, they were chanting, "We want Walton, Walton, Walton," but I never got in that game. And in the media the next week, the statement was made that, hey, I'm not going to change you. Nobody tells me who to play at quarterback. You, my man. So I knew I wasn't going to get much playing time there because of how the head coach was looking at things. I competed every time I played against anybody. I always felt that I was just as good. Now, Ron and I had some great practices. I guess they love to see me in practice, but they didn't love to see me on TV, But some days we would go on 7-on-7. Ron would complete 18 out of 20 passes. I would complete 17 out of 19 passes. He would always get one more pass in than I would, because he was number one man. The next day I might have complete one more than he did, but I saw him get better. They traded for him in the offseason of 76.
Yep.
He got better, trust me, because I could see the progression, and he got to a top level position in 80, 81, where he played his best career and went to the Super Bowl, against the Oakland Raiders, I think it was. Yes.
Yeah, I was just talking with Henry Lawrence about that Super Bowl, and he said he didn't get to play against one of his nemesis, also a Black College Football Hall of Fame. He had played him earlier. Okay. Him and it was Carl Harrison.
Yes,
he was talking about Claude Humphrey. He was talking about how he and Claude Humphrey battled in an earlier game, and Humphrey had beaten him pretty bad, and in the Super Bowl he had his number. So, talk about some of those Eagles teammates. Harold Carmichael. I mean, there were so many names on there. I think we've inducted at least 3 or 4 from that team into the Black College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Great ball players. The Wilbert Montgomerys, Chris Morris, Stan Waters. I mean, it go on and on. I mean, it was 1 and 2 positions deep. Charlie Smith wasn't getting the ball thrown to him until after the touchdown that I threw it. It helped Charlie's career too, because usually in practice, and the game plan was set up around Carmichael, which is not a bad idea now. If you're the best in the league, why not? But I think them spreading the ball around to different people, the tight end Keith Crepley, Charlie Smith, Wilbur could catch it. I mean, we had a good squad. Defensively, during practices, they said I made them better. All of them always say that. Said I approached practices just like it was a game, and I did. I tried to burn them as often as I could, and that's how Charlie and I kind of grew to have a good combination with one another. So we beat them in practice sometimes, quite a few times, and it did help them to get better.
Yeah, Carmichael, those back in the day when the Cardinals were in the NFC East, I mean, he used to have those battles with, Pat Fisher,
Yes.
the great defensive back, and the Giants were still a bad team, starting to come a couple years removed, get to Parcells and whatnot, turn around, but Dallas was still Dallas. Washington, again, started to creep up. I mean, the NFC East over the last Lloyd always makes a point to talk about, you never get that back-to-back winner in the NFC East.
Right.
It's not like it was back, in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s. I mean, those teams were it was like a dogfight out in the parking lot.
Yeah, very competitive. And I do think
it's interesting because John shouted out and named one of those competitors who's in the Black College Football Hall of Fame from the Dallas team, Thomas Hollywood Henderson.
Oh, yes. Oh, fast. Hollywood, you watch him on film and you kind of eliminate him out of the game plan because you're not going to try to throw the ball on him.
Right.
It's hard to block him. He was just so fast and intimidating. I mean, each team has someone like that, I guess. It's just the talent is just so great in the NFL. You're there because you belong there.
Yeah.
And they got you there because you do something better than anyone else.
Do you have to take pride in the fact, though, that the fact that you played with the Eagles, it did, when you really think about it, it opened up the open-mindedness of them to draft and or sign or trade for African-American quarterbacks. I mean, think about it. McNabb, Rodney Peete was a veteran at the time, 94, 95. McNabb, Vic, obviously Jalen Hurts, and arguably, I think, should be in the Hall of Fame, Randall Cunningham.
Oh, yes, he should. You have so many myths. At one time, during the late 60s, they were saying a black quarterback couldn't think, They say they didn't think as well as the other quarterbacks did. But I guess after there were two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, they don't talk about that anymore. And both of them in there, some had to have changed over the years, and I'm sure it wasn't the brain matter. It's just everybody's capable if they're taught and given the same opportunities. You give everybody a chance to show what they can do. And I know that the Philadelphia community was ready for it because, like as I said, in one game they were calling for me. And I don't know how they would have accepted me during the off season because there were so many positive things during that. After that Cowboy game, I couldn't even pay for my own meals at restaurants, those types of things. I mean, they were loving me,
Yeah.
It was hard to make the decision, but it's a decision I made and I went on through with it. Yes.
Imagine that they had sports talk back then, right? Then the next week against the Giants or Dallas, you go 18 of 36 for $165 and 3 interceptions. Now you're paying for your meals.
Yeah.
That's fantastic stuff. I have one more question for you, and I'm sure Lloyd has one or two more. But again, we appreciated the extended time. When Doug Williams won a Super Bowl, and you're watching this unfold and happen, was it this just collective kind of like obviously happiness and just kind of sigh where it's like, all right, you know what? Now everyone can just shut up and just, as you mentioned, the perception of the black quarterback, can't win a big game, can't start in the NFL, can't have a long career. And then, we've seen a boatload of very good African-American quarterbacks, and we're seeing the young man's right now in the NFL. And we're seeing potential Hall of Famers left and right. So what were you feeling when Williams won that Super Bowl? And he was just lighting the world on fire in that game for Washington against Denver.
He sure did. As I told him, as I made a statement at the event last weekend, it almost brought tears to my eyes because, even though I think it happened in '86, that was maybe 5 years after the Eagles had played in the Super Bowl. Now, if I had stayed in there, I may have gotten a chance to, I'm talking hindsight, man. I don't feel that I made a bad mistake. But anything could have happened. I could have been that person as being the number one person to be a black quarterback to play in the Super Bowl. You know, you never know what could have happened. And I don't build my life around wouldas and shouldas, but that's how close it could have been. And so when he got in there, man, started throwing touchdowns all over the place, it really made me feel good and it excited me. And I still remember those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 1988 and
Was
I'm in
he-
Philadelphia and I know I watched the game with my grandfather he was an Eagles guy and the whole house was hooping and hollering, Doug Williams. And then when I did Third and a Mile and they found out I was doing the book and the documentary with him, they couldn't believe it.
Okay.
And I show them the pictures. I said, "Oh, you know him?" And you walk around with Doug, and you can attest to this. It's like walking around one of the Beatles. I told him this weekend. I'm like, you're royalty. People just remember that game and what he was able to prove because he was Eddie Robinson's litmus test. He wanted to prove coming from Grambling and a historic black college that you could get it done. So. John, and I want to thank you again for coming on. I'm going to wrap it up with you thank me actually because I gave Q. We do for each guy when we're voting for him. It's almost like what the NFL guys do. We kind of do a speech for a player, and John was my guy. So I brought it home for him, and it was my pleasure. And then John, can you talk a little bit about what it means to be in the Black College Football Hall of Fame?
Well, Lord, you are a walking encyclopedia because I kind of questioned you on some things this weekend. And guess what, you passed the grade because it was amazing the things that you have within your mind. And I just want to thank you for putting me out there and refreshing. That's what it's all about. You refresh people's memories of things that's happened in the past that they can go back and Google or they remember them, and it's 50 years ago since I played in 69. So, being recognized 50 years later, it's awesome, man. It's amazing that it happened. It will be one of the highlights of my life. And I just thank you for putting me out there like that.
It was my pleasure. I mean, I just enjoyed talking to you, and then I had my young son with you, and then I was explaining to him who you were. I said this was Mahomes before Mahomes. He paved the road, and he got it. There's always YouTube, and they can always bring up that game with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and tell them it's on November 11th, 1979, frame 30.
I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna search for that clip, man. Especially, because Monday Night Football was an event back in the day.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, it was.
It was an event, and Dallas and the Eagles were on a lot. Me, I'm a lifelong Giants fan. I had to wait a while for them to get good. They were a real bad team, and then obviously start to put things together. Hey, real quickly, and I have a horrible habit of saying last one for me, but I just love talking football. Lloyd will tell you that. Where do you, when you look at some of these quarterbacks right now in the NFL, and you watch some of these younger guys, Lance is still learning. You got Love in Green Bay, obviously Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, Patrick Mahomes, a Hall of Famer. You look at a kid like Jalen Hurts, to me, I just think this kid's a gamer. And again, this is coming from, you got to be objective here as a Giants fan. He just has that, I know something you don't know kind of air about him. And he just goes out and he delivers. When you watch a kid like Jalen Hurts play, what kind of goes through your mind?
I feel like he's one of a kind. He's so serious about what he's doing. And, when he showed me something I probably would not have done, and because during the game, championship game, Coach Soriano was kind of saying some things to the opposite team, and Jalen kind of reeled him back in. That was wow. That was something on his maturity and a person that is definitely on top of his game. he's an example that everyone should try to follow. You know, he did his part. You know, I felt like it was an awesome first half, and he did his part in the second half. He just didn't get the ball in his hands enough. You know, and Kansas City was just, they were doing things that the defense had never seen, and they never adjusted. You know, I call it the carousel offense when they start doing the circle at the line of scrimmage, and then bang, you know, you snap the ball. The defensive back probably during the week was, you know, told that you check this guy, you check this. But the way they were moving people around, you didn't know where they were going to be. So next year, I think they will be prepared for something like that. But they were just not ready during this Super Bowl.
Fair enough. All right, Lloyd, you got the last word?
No, I just appreciate John coming on. We'll be talking. You know, I almost feel like I made a lifelong friend. You know, these guys were heroes of mine. It's just incredible. I get to sit with them and meet them. And John's down in the North Carolina area. Maybe if I get down in Outer Banks, that's where he is. Kind of come visit.
Well,
okay, you got me. I'm a friend, and I'll always be. And I love you for what you did for me.
We might have our new weekly NFL Insider jumping on the show with us now. You know, I don't know. If you have a busy schedule, we try to get you a little bit during the football season.
No, he did a great job. Steve White from the NFL Network was joking he was going to take his job as an MC next year.
Hey,
I enjoyed it.
The opportunity presents itself. Johnny, listen, we appreciate it greatly. Congratulations on the induction into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Well deserved, well earned. And like I said, you paved the way for a lot of African-American quarterbacks when they start to look at the lineage and the history of the position. You know, your name certainly, and it should deservingly so, pop up and be talked about. But I know Lloyd does. We appreciate you jumping on board for a couple moments.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. And Lloyd.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.